The first time they saw him on the court, he was standing awkwardly under the basket, long limbs tangled, eyes darting between the rim and the ball like he was tracking a falling comet. He didn't ask to be there. The position claimed him before he even knew what it meant. The guards were off in the corner, working on flashy crossovers and step-backs. He was told, "Plant your feet, box out, don't let anyone in." From the outside, it looked obvious. He was the tallest in class, always shoved to the back row in school photos, knees poking out from desks built for smaller frames. Of course he'd be a power forward, but what no one saw was the moment it happened. 6th grade, first practice. The coach's finger pointed at him like a sentence being handed down. Under the hoop, catch the ball when it misses. It wasn't a request. It was gravity. And like gravity, it didn't care what he wanted. His parents told everyone how proud they were, saying he was built for the game. Friends joked he'd probably drink rebounds for breakfast. The truth was messier. He was excited to play, but there was a quiet sting in realizing his path was already drawn in chalk before he'd even learned the rules. He watched the smaller kids work on handles and deep shots while he learned how to shove, seal, and survive the storm in the paint. Nobody clapped for a good box out. Nobody wrote about the kid who took the elbow so someone else could grab the board. But that day under the basket was the start of something. Not chosen, but inherited. And long before he knew what it would cost him, he had already accepted the weight. The gym was a storm that Friday night. Bleachers packed, sneakers squealing against polished wood, and under the basket, a war no scoreboard could measure. He stood there like a pillar in the middle of a hurricane, legs braced, shoulders squared, waiting for the rebound that would decide the quarter. Then came the collision, knees cracking together like pool balls, an elbow sneaking into his ribs, a body crashing to the floor. From the stands, it looked like chaos. Up close, it was choreography, the violent kind. He had the size, bigger than most kids his age, with shoulders that made the paint feel smaller. The advantage was obvious. The disadvantage was too. Every opponent wanted a piece of him. Game after game, someone would throw their entire weight into him, just to see if the big guy could be moved. In those moments, he learned more than how to box out. He learned how to fall without staying down, how to land with his hip instead of his spine, how to keep playing when his ankle whispered that something wasn't right, and when fingers swelled from being trapped against the ball or thighs burned from bone-on-bone impact, he stayed quiet. High school didn't reward honesty about pain. It rewarded whoever could pretend they weren't feeling it. He understood the unspoken rule. The moment you sat out, someone else took your spot, and if they played well, you might never get it back. So he played on, taped up, and carried every bruise like it was part of the uniform. By 16, the scoreboard told one story, but his body told another, one written in aches and welts and the quiet resilience of a kid who had already decided he would never be easy to move. And yet, these battles, they weren't the destination. They were just the warm-up for the next arena, where the bodies would be bigger, the hits harder, and the space under the basket even smaller. The ball swung to the corner, and in less than a heartbeat, he was there. All 6'8" of him charging out from the paint to challenge a shooter 25 feet from the rim. One possession earlier, he'd been wrestling a 240-pound center under the glass. Now, his job was to stop a guard with lightning in his legs and a jumper quick as a camera flash. That was college ball, and for him, it was a shockwave. In high school, he had ruled the paint like it was his private territory. No one strong enough to move him, no one quick enough to beat him. But the NCAA was another planet. Every player was tall. Every player was strong, and almost all of them could shoot, dribble, and defend with the kind of precision you only see on TV. The first week, his coach had leaned in and told him flatly, "If you want minutes here, you need to hit from deep, and you need to guard 1 through 5. That meant morning sessions launching hundreds of threes, footwork drills until his calves screamed, and learning to survive in open space against guards who thrived on breaking ankles. But the hardest part wasn't the training. It was the realization that the game itself had changed. The power forwards he grew up watching banged in the paint, lived off putbacks and post-ups. Now the stars were stretch fours, floor spacers who could pull defenders to the arc, switch onto anyone, and still score in traffic. The tectonic plates of basketball had shifted, and if he didn't move with them, he'd be buried. So he adapted. He kept the grit of an old-school enforcer but grafted on the skills of the new era. One game he might be the hammer under the rim, the next, a shadow tracking a shooter around the arc. And while the crowd cheered the highlight reel dunks and buzzer-beater threes, he learned that the plays that truly decided games were the quiet ones. A timely box out, a fingertip deflection, a hard closeout that turned a three into a contested brick. Still, in the back of his mind, he knew this was only a proving ground. The bodies would get bigger. The pace would get faster. And soon the arena he'd step into next would make even the NCAA feel small. Fourth quarter, tie game, 45 seconds on the clock. He's face-to-face with an all-NBA forward, a man who moves like a guard, shoots like a sniper, and bullies like a center. One possession ago, a rookie had tried to back him down, desperate to prove he belonged. Now it's the league's elite testing whether he still belongs. That's the NBA. Compared to college, it's not just faster. It's faster and smarter. Every cut is sharper. Every screen is set with a purpose. Every defender has scouted your every habit. Plays aren't just drawn up. They're memorized, layered, disguised, and executed at a speed that makes yesterday's game film feel prehistoric. And hovering over it all is the lens of the media. Slow-motion breakdowns on national TV, clips dissected by millions online. Every slip magnified until it lives rent-free in the public's memory. The paychecks are bigger here, but so is the fine print. Contracts are poker games. Short-term deals, non-guaranteed clauses, the silent threat of a trade or a cut if production dips. And in the shadows, there's always someone younger, cheaper, and hungrier waiting to take your place. That someone might be the rookie in your own locker room, the one who hits the weight room early, mirrors your footwork, and plays you harder in practice than the opponent will tonight. Or it might be the veteran on the other team who senses you're half a step slower and turns that into a career night. The league is a revolving stage, and the audience only notices when you're gone. To stay in the spotlight, he has to deliver every night. Box outs that erase second chances, rotations so sharp they erase open looks, contests that turn made shots into air balls. One lapse, one missed read, and the whispers start. Maybe it's time for a change. Tonight, he'll win this battle. But in the NBA, the next one is already waiting, and it's coming faster than the last. It happened in a blink. And yet, everyone in the arena would replay it in their minds at half speed. A routine rebound, a clean leap, then the wrong landing, his foot sliding onto another man's shoe. The sound was small, almost polite, pop, but the way he crumpled made the noise echo like a gunshot. From the sideline, you could see the shock ripple through him. 1 second, his eyes tracked the ball. The next, they were glassy, unfocused. Pain hit fast, but fear hit faster. The kind that makes an athlete test their leg only to feel it refuse the order. Trainers rushed in, teammates knelt beside him, their faces carrying that grim recognition. They'd seen this before, and it rarely ended clean. He was helped to the bench, ice already pressing into the swelling, sweat cooling into a chill across his back. Somewhere above, in row 14, his mother gripped the railing like it might stop the fall she was watching. His father tried to smile when the cameras caught him, but his eyes slid away from the screen. The numbers were merciless. The average prime for an NBA power forward? 4 to 6 years. Every season, rosters turned over, new blood replacing veterans whose bodies blinked first. An injury like this wasn't just a setback. It was a countdown. Rehab became his world. Hours in the pool, resistance bands biting into his skin, the monotony broken only by the whisper in his head. Will I ever be the same? The leg healed, technically, but in practice, there was a hitch in the stride, a jump that felt a few inches shorter. And in a league where inches were everything, that gap could be fatal. When he returned, the game hadn't slowed for him. If anything, it felt faster, crueler. He could still fight for position, still muscle through a screen, but there was a hesitation now, a split second where the old instincts met the new reality. And in that fraction of a moment, the league noticed. He'd won battles before, but this one, he realized, might not end with a victory, only with a different kind of survival. It happened at a reunion, years after the roar of the crowd had faded. In a quiet corner, away from cameras and speeches, a former teammate leaned in and said, "If it weren't for you, I'd never have been open for that shot in Game 7. No one else heard it. No one needed to. By then, his playing days were over. The arenas were silent now, ghosts of 1,000 battles he'd fought. His body still carried the ledger of his career. Knees that clicked with every step, a shoulder that ached when the weather turned, feet that stiffened every morning. And yet, the habits never left. A light warm-up at sunrise, some weights in the afternoon. Not for competition anymore, but for survival. The transition had been its own kind of test. No more 48-minute wars, no more adrenaline spikes under the lights. Instead, he found new arenas. A dusty high school gym, teaching kids how to seal on a box out. A community court, explaining why a good screen matters more than a bad shot. He understood something now. Fame is loud, but impact is lasting. Fame is the sneaker deal, the highlight reel, the trending hashtag. Impact is the silent shift in a teammate's confidence, the unglamorous play that changes the outcome without making the news. He'd chosen impact, even when it meant fewer headlines and smaller checks. Looking at the next generation, the ones chasing buzzer beaters and viral dunks, he had a message. Learn the things that make your team better, even when nobody's watching. That's how you stay. And as he watched those kids run drills, he saw flashes of himself in them. Not the stat-chasing version, but the one who understood that the truest legacies aren't shouted from the rafters. They're carried quietly, from one player to the next, long after the final whistle.